Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. I'm Jackie Cation. You know the websites, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com. If you like a determiner, FamilyPetAncestry.com, which I just renewed because it's funny. Let's do the credits. You just heard the song that Mike Rickberg composed and sang with his wife Sarah Cohen. He will sing his words to the Mexican Hat Dance at the end of the program. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio, and Vilmos does JackieCation.com, the website. DorkForest.com has available essentially player notes and the YouTube version of the show. You can listen to the show on iTunes and Stitcher and all the things, but you can also listen to it on YouTube or on dorkforest.com. JackieCation.com has all my stand-up comedy information and the merch for Dork Forest. You can get t-shirts, you can get CDs, you can get pins that say Spooky Reading Girl or Meat Shield, but they are not available on the website. You have to email me, Jackie@JackieCation.com. There's also the calendar of my stand-up comedy to find out where I'm playing near you. If I'm not playing near you, talk to your local comedy club and request me. What the heck? There are also videos of my stand-up. You can watch my Conan. You can watch clips from my DVD and links to my other podcasts, The Jackie and Laurie Show on Nerdist, which is just about stand-up comedy. Anyway, there is also a donation button on both JackieCation.com and DorkForest.com. It's a PayPal button. All it is a way to donate to support the show. You can do that by using the Amazon banner, which is just a link to get you to Amazon, which supports the show. You just order like normal. It doesn't cost you extra. And you can use the donation button just to donate. If you don't like PayPal, you can Venmo me, Jackie@JackieCation.com. There is also premium episodes at thedorkforest.bandcamp.com, and those cost $2 a piece because they're live episodes and they cost me some money to put up. So if you've run through all the episodes, you can go to Bandcamp and get like 10 more. What the heck? So much info. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Thanks for supporting the show. Let's get into it. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I'm in my living room with one of my favorite comics, quite honestly, Ted Alexandro. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
I just saw your 6 minutes at the Cellar.
Yes.
About Louis and Bill Cosby and Justice.
Yes.
And it was a delight.
Thank you.
It was a little nice drop of sort of casual sanity. That's what I enjoy about your stand-up, by the way. It's a casual kind of sanity.
I've never heard it described that way, but I think it's apt. I'll take that.
Yeah, can't hurt, right?
Yeah.
So, American public and internationals, Rangers, know that you should go find Ted Alexandro, who, by the way, has a brand new special on All Things Comedy. The specials, they're doing specials now. All Things Comedy, of course, you know, is the umbrella group that I am a part of. And so atcspecials.com, and your show is called Senior Class of Earth.
That's right.
And you are Ted Alexandro, which is all over the internet. That's how you find you, at Ted Alexandro or TedAlexandro.com.
That's exactly right.
Now everyone knows as much as I do.
Yeah.
Let us speak to your dorkdom, which hilariously you said was musical theater.
Yeah.
I've done many episodes about them. Still don't know much more about them as from the beginning.
That's probably a good thing.
And I claim it as much. I like them as well, weirdly enough. But
yeah,
there's so many different. It's like saying I like music.
Right.
And then all of a sudden someone shows up and they like, I don't know, that thing where they pound on the silver drums
Stomp.
and dance. Stomp.
Yes.
Yeah. I never saw that.
I saw that in New York probably 15 years ago, like when it was, I don't know if that was when it was first hot or whatever, but yeah, it was cool, you know?
Yeah.
It was cool.
I saw something like it, but it was clearly sort of a ripoff of the technique.
Yeah.
But it was Soviet political about unionizing.
Huh.
And I saw it at midnight until 2 a.m. in Minneapolis, Minnesota, on the West Bank, at a theater called the Southern Theater. And it was super powerful. It was late.
Yeah.
So we were all super tired.
Yeah.
And then there was pounding of drums.
So they incorporated both the pounding of drums with a political message.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a lot of sort of, if I remember, all the art was that kind of stylized Soviet graphic design kind of stuff from the 90s.
So cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And then they had those oil drums, which I don't know but that's what they were beating on.
Yeah, yeah.
And then people were jumping, and there were 2 levels, and people jumped. But I think that's what Stomp is, right?
Yeah, more or less. I think without the politics, if I remember. Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
kind of like banging on drums.
It was just banging on drums and
pushing
dancing.
brooms. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was about the working man, if I remember correctly, as
Yeah.
well, Stomp. It was about the joy.
I think so. Yeah. And my kind of theater dorkdom was, and it's funny because I'm 49 now, so I'm talking about like high school and college years.
Flower drum song.
Oh yeah.
Another racially sensitive moment.
For sure. And I was like, kind of, it was almost like my first home base for artistic expression.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, because I had taken piano lessons as a kid.
Okay.
And maybe that was kind of like my first identity in terms of like at the school.
Right.
If they ever needed somebody to entertain the kids for 10 minutes, they would call me up and I'd play. But
you
then,
still play? Just quick side.
I studied jazz piano in college. So
Okay.
up until then, I was pretty much playing all the time.
Yeah.
But there came a point where I just had this epiphany that I'm not a jazz pianist. And I was surrounded by really incredibly talented musicians at college.
And committed, too.
Yes.
They wanted it.
They wanted it, and they had a gift.
Yeah.
And I wanted it and did not have a gift. So that put me at a distinct
That'll make you
disadvantage.
want it less.
It really did. It really did. It was like depreciating by the day, So I was like, yeah, this is too much for me. I love the arts, and I knew I wanted to be in the arts, and I was like, but what is going to be my thing? So in high school and college, both in school and also in community theater, like my church had a pretty thriving theater
awesome.
club or department where this woman and her husband, who coincidentally was a jazz guitarist, they were kind of the spearheads of this church community group. So I felt really lucky that every summer, we put on a musical. And
Wow.
Yeah.
You are really lucky, because that sounds like an Andy Hardy. That sounds like an old-timey movie. Like there's some costumes in the attic. Let's put on a show.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what... So you're 14, 15 years old.
That's right.
And in the summer, either the community or the school, and then during the year it was the school.
The school.
What did let's do church first. What were the summer productions?
Well, I'll tell you, I distinctly remember as an audience member, so maybe I was 13 at this point, going to see, they put on Godspell. And I had never seen it
Makes
before.
sense. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Wait, is it the Joseph and the Coat of Many Colors, or is that a different musical?
That's a different one, same genre.
Okay.
Godspell is almost like the story of Jesus' life, but set to like a rock kind of clowny kind of opera. Not Jesus Christ Superstar. That's a heavier kind of depiction. Right. If I had to, Godspell is more of a...
Is it a youth pastor kind of situation where like hipsters?
Like hipsters, yeah. Like a hippie version of the...
You're going to want this. This is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It can be fun.
That's right.
It's not all about that guy hanging up on the wood.
That's right.
All right.
That's right. There's other layers.
Yes.
So, so I wasn't, I wasn't into theater that much at that point. I wasn't into religion, and I'm still not. But seeing that musical as a 13-year-old, and these people that were just in our community up on stage, it was again like this epiphany of like, wow, I can, how do you get to be part of that? And the answer was you just show up. So from that day forward, I would just show up. So the next play they did, I think it was Carousel. Okay. And I was just on the stage crew for that. I just wanted to be around this, what is this thing?
In the community of it, essentially.
Yeah.
The weird thing is now I want to see Godspell, because when I was 13, I didn't see Jesus Christ Superstar. I listened to the album.
Yeah.
And I'd been going to church since I was a tiny.
Yeah.
And so I had a religious experience because it finally explained it in a way that I was like, oh, he's a guy.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's trying to do his best.
Right.
And he's very powerful.
Yeah.
Because he's He just is. He's just very charismatic, and people.
He's like Jim Morrison.
Yeah,
in this one,
right. It felt a little Jim Morrison. It was weird they didn't cast him, except for he probably wouldn't have showed up.
That's right.
So, what do you want, James Inman? And which is a weird comedy reference. I'll be over here. Anyway, so Godspell is okay. So that's that, and then Carousel. Did you?
All I did in that one was I was up in the wings.
Yeah.
And a couple of times throughout the show, for the night scenes, I let down a string of stars. That was my job, but I was thrilled as a 13-year-old or whatever I was to be.
And you had to be there.
It
wasn't night without you, man.
It was not night without me. Yes. So then the next year, I think I auditioned and I got cast, and then I was like, "Wow, I'm part of this. I'm on stage." That felt natural, as opposed to my later pursuit of jazz piano. So yeah, it was like, wow, I'm part of this. I liked the just the collaborative community feel of like we're putting on a show, you know,
right?
Like, so
and there's 15 people or 30 people or whatever.
Yes,
at that level. I mean, because those are smaller productions, and everybody's
fun.
There.
That's right.
And you do it 4 or 5 times a week.
Yes.
And were you in band or orchestra or any of that?
Yeah, I played in band in junior high school, a little bit in high school. Like I was in the pit band for one of the school musical of Grease. We did Grease, and I was the pianist for that. So yeah, I was kind of bouncing back and forth. Mostly, I'd say I was on stage. Like we did a production of Grease in the community theater group. We did West Side Story, all these things. So my performing chops were kind of being developed, being in front of people.
So you were singing and dancing?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
You're a triple threat, Ted Alexandro. Who knew?
Yeah.
And so how was the choreography? Was it pretty simple? And
it varied. Some productions it was pretty simple, which I was appreciative of, and others it was a little more involved. And yeah, I wouldn't call myself. That's one threat that
that nobody's threatened by.
Nobody's threatened by that. Yeah, I had to work really hard on the dancing part.
Yeah.
But,
I loved pretty good voice?
Yeah,
do you like
passable.
To sing?
Okay. I wouldn't call myself a singer, but yeah, passable.
No, I'm a group singer. That's what I always think of it as.
Yes.
I love to sing.
Yes.
But it's really best if it occurs in a group.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I'm good backup.
Yes. Yeah.
As someone who's really good at singing.
Yes, I'll remember the words and I'll be right next to you.
And I'll be having the time of my life, quite honestly, because I genuinely like to sing. But did you have were they real roles or?
Yeah, I was lead roles in most of these. I was Tony in West Side Story. I was Danny Zuko in Grease.
What?
Yeah. So I was lucky that I was feeling. You
got the good Italian looks for the West Side Story jam.
That's right.
And then Grease, Tony, I suppose those and Danny Zuko has dark hair. Well, yeah, Travolta does.
Back then, I had like a thick head of hair that could be slicked up, for all these roles. Yeah, so
sure. Who doesn't? Yeah, that really. I forget. We did in high school. We did Flower Drum Song. The woman who did all the reason I ask about the choreography is the woman who did all the choreography and was the theater director at South Milwaukee, Wisconsin high school, was Miss Kuligowski. And she also worked with the community dance troupe called the Polish Krakow Dancers. And so all of the choreography was Polish. It didn't, Flower Drum Song, Polish.
No matter what, yeah.
MAME. We're doing the Polish. There's a lot of kicks. Anyway, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
We could have used her in some of our productions, actually. Yeah.
Right. Now, Carousel, that was never one of my favorites, just because it was sad.
Yeah, same.
West Side Story as well. I've never King and I as well.
You didn't like West Side Story?
No, West Side Story. It was a bummer. I was like, hey, I'm bummed out now.
Yeah, but I think as a young person, it was, I guess, almost the way Rent resonated with the next generation.
Yeah.
I think West Side Story kind of tapped into that other thing of like, oh, musicals aren't always happy and kick line and I feel other things, Right.
I think I had just read The Outsiders.
Yeah.
When I saw West Side Story, and I was like, oh no, not more of this.
Yes.
And and you're in junior high and they keep assigning like a separate piece.
Yes.
And one sad sack book after another.
That's right. That's
you're
right.
Like, nope.
Yeah, they're hitting you over the head with it.
I think I was babysitting when I saw The King and I called home, and my stepmother goes, What are you watching on TV? The kids are in bed. And I said, King and I. She goes, Oh, he dies in the end. And she was a big one for ruining a movie.
This was before the term spoiler alert.
Oh my God, she could have. She also was the one who explained who Red Rosebud was. But she was watching it one afternoon on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I said, "What's Rosebud?" She goes, "Oh, it's his old sled from when he was a kid." And I was like, "All right." She said, "Go outside." And then I went outside.
Yeah. Thanks for quickly ruining.
But I, I look back on it and I was like, well, now, actually, right now I'm looking back on it and thinking, well, maybe that's why I don't like sad movies, is because she was always like, oh, you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
It's
Trying
a bummer at the
you.
end.
Yeah.
So, also, I'd like to be alone,
Right.
and which is my parents' entire mantra from my childhood. I'd like to be alone.
Yeah.
And,
Were you an only child?
no, I'm the youngest of 6.
Oh, wow.
So they
There you
were
go.
never alone.
Yeah, I'm the second oldest of 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And we actually all did theater together at one point. We're in about a 10-year span.
The Von Trapps?
Pretty much.
Oh, my God.
Pretty much. It was accidental, but we all just gravitated towards
Performance. What did you do? What did you do as a group?
We were all in, I guess all of us were in West Side Story, maybe Grease.
Oh, really? Oh, right, because you all went to the same church, so you
Yeah.
were all in that church group.
And all looking for something to do in the summer.
Yeah.
So my parents were thrilled. All 5 of us were in one
At
place out of the
rehearsals?
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we did a few shows where it was all 5 of us and a bunch of others
What's
where
the breakdown to boys to girls?
3 boys, 2 girls in that order.
In that order. We're 4 boys, 2 girls in that order.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is also one of 5, 3 boys, 2 girls.
Yeah. It's funny about the second girl. Because you're wondering why, well, first of all, why the first? Why the first boy? Anyway, so
Yeah.
it's, as my sister likes to say, the condom was invented in the 1700s. I don't think you understand.
Yes.
And then everyone else goes, but you wouldn't have been born. And she says, yes, I would have, but I would have been a Rockefeller, like I was meant to be.
There were other options. Yeah.
It would have all worked out. Anyway, but so so you got to be Tony. You're the second oldest. What did the oldest get to play?
My older brother, like in Greece, was Kaniki. I was Danny. He was Kaniki. So
He has
that
a
was
lot to
cool.
offer, girl. I don't know
That's
if you know
right.
that about Kaneki.
Oh, for
but he's
sure.
got a lot to offer, girl.
He does.
So
Tell me more.
okay.
So it was cool. It was cool. Like, yeah.
One of your sisters didn't play Rizzo, did they?
No, you know what was funny?
That's really for the best.
One of my sisters, bizarrely, was the understudy for Sandy.
Oh, also would have been awkward.
Very awkward. So luckily, Sandy was of good health and never.
I'm sure your sisters were like, "Damn it! If they keep getting the leads, I will never get the love
That's
interest."
true. That's true. Yeah. I kind of stood in their way for a few years.
They were much younger, though.
They were.
so,
Yeah. Luckily, they were.
They had the rest of their lives ahead of you. You just
For
had this
sure.
one summer to play Tony.
And I don't think I prevented it because
Or
my
Danny.
sister Trish is an actress, so she thrived anyway.
Good.
I didn't. No impediment to her career.
Is she in New York?
She's in New York. Yeah.
Okay. Does
Yeah.
she do musical theater at all?
No, primarily now she writes her own stuff. She does character stuff. She acts, all different types of genres.
It's the way with actors.
That's right.
They're like comics. They're like, no, I need to act, and
That's
then
right.
they go out and they find community theater, or they write their own thing, or they make student
100%.
films, or
Yeah. You kind of just you get into that network the way comedians do.
Right. It's one of my. It's always been a reveal as to why I clearly don't want to be an actress as much as I want to be a stand-up comic. Is
That's
because
right.
I don't go and find acting gigs.
Yeah.
But I like to act.
Same.
Whenever I'm like, oh yeah, no, I would love that.
Yep.
In other news, I will go out and find a frickin' stand-up set.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, on 100%.
And I think that was like kind of a revelation for me too. Was like, again, knowing that I wanted to be in the arts. That was the one thing I knew probably from a kid, but I didn't know like what form it was going to take. But like when I went to college, I kind of had this aversion to like getting a degree in acting. I just felt like, why do you like get a degree in acting? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. I know I can act. I've been doing it since I was 13.
right.
So
I think it's just sort of a completion
yeah.
thing more than no. Though I'm probably wrong. I mean, I have a degree in political science by accident.
Yeah.
Because they said I had to pick a major.
Right,
And I was
right.
like, all right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do stand-up. And they're
That's
like,
right.
we don't care. We genuinely don't.
Well, that's a good marriage, though, political science and stand-up.
Well, except for I never did political comedy until about 2.5 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was socio-political, I guess, a little.
Yeah.
But just because I'm alive.
Yes.
But now it's political because I'm alive.
That's right.
And
that's right. I feel
don't
the same
want to.
way.
Yeah. I would love to tell you more jokes about my dad.
For sure. Yeah.
He's hilarious. Yeah.
People say to me, like, when did you shift to more or more? I'm like, have you been paying attention? Like, if we talk about this stuff every day in conversation, why wouldn't I bring that on stage?
That's the only jokes that's where I have to make myself laugh during the day.
Yes.
Or just curl up.
Yes.
Just call it.
That's right.
And so if I make myself laugh during the day about something political, I'm going to use that on stage. It's the same thing happens when I'm hanging out with my dad.
Yes. For sure.
If I have to make myself laugh about him too, because he's a piece of work. God love him. Love him dearly.
Yeah.
And
so as far as like the pathway for me, it was like musical theater at first was like the safe place of, this feels right. This feels like home. And then from there, started doing a little bit of stand-up and sketch comedy as part of a group.
Right.
First as a group, then as a duo. One of my best friends from college started going to open mics in New York City.
Ooh, is that duo?
Who did I do it with?
No. Eventually. But so I did not know that you came from duo people.
That was how it started.
That's how it began.
That's how it began.
What was the act?
My friend Hollis James and I just met in college.
Okay.
Belonged to the same sketch group, and then ventured out into we would go to audition night at the comic strip in New York, and just all the bad open mics around New York.
And just riffing?
No, we wrote it. It was very, very written.
Okay.
Very everything to the word.
Just scripted, like
almost
Sklar Brothers?
Yeah. Kind of that kind of vibe. Almost sketches within, we would do this, here's a 2-minute piece on this.
Yeah.
Now here's another, we would just segue. And it was fun and silly. But yeah, it was, ill-fated ultimately.
Right. I mean, eventually those things either they stick or they don't.
Right.
And
more I also knew, I want to do this alone. This,
right.
I felt compelled. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, there's so many reasons to do stand-up alone. One of which, for me, is the responsibility to no one.
That's right.
If you're in a duo, you better be there for that person.
That's right. On the one hand, it was nice to, whether a gig went great or horribly, it was nice to kind of commiserate if it was bad. Just to kind of have somebody on the train ride home or the car ride home to talk about it with.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, like you said, I'd almost rather succeed or fail on my own, and more of the stuff that I was writing was my own stuff, so it was just a natural kind of progression.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you have always lived in you've lived in New York for decades, right?
Yeah, since forever, really. I was born in Queens, and other than a brief stint living in India when I was 4 or 5 years old, my parents moved there to kind of do some teaching. So my earliest childhood memories are India.
Did you ever ride an elephant?
I did.
Thank you.
I absolutely did.
Everyone who's been to India, I would like to know. It's one of the things I want to know.
Yeah.
And do you have a picture of yourself on an elephant?
I absolutely do.
And you should.
Yeah.
Because it's a neat thing.
I vividly remember it, yeah.
We're going to Cambodia and Vietnam.
Wow.
And probably going to be allowed. I was just talking to my husband. I said, can we maybe ride an elephant? And he goes, going to let you in on something. They're not psyched, the elephants. And I said, oh. I also don't want to swim with dolphins for the same reason. Why don't we leave it alone?
Yeah.
It's how about I look at an elephant and say, well, I hope it all working out over there.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway,
you can be halfway,
and then he
right?
showed me a video of somebody playing with a baby elephant that was hilarious because the baby elephant did not know its own strength, and this young woman was being kind of squashed by the elephant, but not in a bad way.
Yeah,
but just she could not stop laughing. She's like, this freaking elephant is 350 pounds.
That's scary. Yeah,
and she wasn't super. She just thought it was. At one point, she could not move, but she was laughing, and there were someone with a camera and other people there to take the baby elephant up. But the baby elephant was just being a puppy.
Right.
Yeah.
But baby or not, though, it's an elephant, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a large animal.
I remember being on the elephant, and again, I was 4 going on 5. I remember how surreal it felt, and an elephant when you're a kid is just almost like a fictional, like something like Dumbo, right?
Right.
So being on top of it was thrilling, but scary too, because like you said, the temperament was like you could tell they weren't thrilled.
Yeah. It's a wild animal.
For sure.
It turns out, even though they're pretty good sports.
Yes.
From all accounts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably taught to be, right?
Right.
Imagine.
They're bred to be, no
Yes.
doubt. So, okay, so New York. So did you guys go and see musical theater when you were a kid, or any sort of...
Yeah, my mom and dad, they definitely were supportive and fostered all of that. Again, because our local church community theater group was decent,
Right.
and at times really
maybe
good.
field trips too, right, with those guys?
Yeah, we would go. Yeah, and we'd go into the city and see. We'd go to like Radio City for the Christmas Spectacular.
Okay.
That kind of stuff. But we'd go to Broadway too.
That's neat.
Yeah. It was like a treat though, because we lived in Queens, so the city was. Even though it's right there, it was like a treat. We're going into the city to
Right,
see
it used to be much more separate. Now it's
Absolutely.
just bled all into itself.
It's one thing, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I remember the first time I ever went to New York was in the 80s, and my friend was from Queens. I have one friend from Manhattan and one friend from Queens, and my friend in Queens was like, well, you should come and have an Italian ice. And I was like, should I? What's an Italian ice?
Yes.
And
Would you guys call it like a water ice or something? Did you have any kind of name for that?
They were snow cones.
Snow cones, yeah.
Yeah, we just called them snow cones. And
Right.
she was like, it isn't a snow cone. And I was like, and then I ate it and I was like, it's kind of a really good snow cone.
Yes.
And she's like, it's a really good snow cone though. And I was like, fair enough.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So okay. So what are your? I've weeded off as per usual, but what are your favorite? So just sort of take me through sort of the 80s night. Like, have you seen the ones in the 50s? Like you've seen Oklahoma and all the.
What was interesting?
Gigi.
Yeah. What was interesting for me was studying jazz piano. You become intimately aware of the American songbook, much of which comes from Broadway musicals. The Cole Porter and Rodgers and Hammerstein, Rodgers and Hart.
That's a term, though, right?
The American Songbook? Yes.
What does it mean? I forget.
It means kind of the canon that was made famous by, let's say, Louis Armstrong, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett.
Okay, so it's the thing that they refer to if it's a famous song written by Americans.
Yeah.
In the dawn of sort of great American music.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of it,
and it's referred to it as the American Songbook.
the American Songbook. A lot of it was, from Broadway musicals. Maybe a lot of times the musical was a flop, but there's one or two songs that become like.
One Night in Bangkok.
There you go. A classic piece of the American Songbook.
Except for British, but the only song out of that thing that anyone knows.
That's right.
Out of
That's
chess.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, all these great songs. The way you look tonight. All
What's that one from? I don't know that.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't remember. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's at least 3 rabid musical theater fans that are listening to this right now going, I know.
Please let us know.
Please, Jack H. Vacation. Let me just email you.
Yeah, we're comedians now. I'm no longer.
Well, and the musical episodes are always so funny because people are like, you didn't get to this. And I'm like, I rarely do. You know that. You're
Right.
listening.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, the songs from the different music, I mean, there's...
Yeah, so for me, again, the jazz piano thing, without, like, when I declared my major of jazz piano, I was not aware of how much I didn't know about music in general, about jazz music specifically.
Right.
So much
It's
of
a
the
lot
jazz,
of work, I bet.
Oh, yeah. I was constantly scrambling. I was behind the 8 ball, but I was so motivated to catch up.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I loved it, so I was finding out about all these songwriters and finding out about jazz and how the jazz musicians would cover the Great American Songbook and take these songs that were written by Cole Porter or whoever and improvise on them. So it was like, it was like a standard song form or a standard song.
Right, there was a frame there that they would then play around with.
That's right.
Okay.
So for me, then studying John Coltrane or Thelonious Monk, Charlie Parker, I was seeing, and I was kind of absorbing a skill set that didn't serve me in jazz because I didn't have that skill set. But I think later, the work ethic that I learned in music kind of translated to stand-up in weird ways.
Well, I think it's so interesting how different people do stand-up because whatever their work ethic is how they do, Laurie Kilmartin is, I'm going to sit down and write a set list, and I'm going to work on this. These are the 7 minutes I need to work on this week, and I'm going to take a scalpel out and remove the word "the."
That's right.
And you're like, that is not how I do it. I essentially like to paint the whole house and then go back and touch up everything.
Yes.
So that's more how I do it. But
but
it doesn't mean, of course, there's any right way. It's just, it is fascinating.
For sure. Yeah. And for
me,
me,
the skills you learned.
That's right. And for me, like that adapted over time too, because like when I started, I was more what you described with Laurie of writing it to the word. And then just But then in recent years, maybe the last 10, more of what you said, going up with like a skeleton framework and splattering paint around and just seeing, and then kind of working backwards from there.
It helps to have the experience to not be scared.
That's right.
The chops to that that there's something there. It'll be fine.
That's right.
It's sort of I watched improv. And I've seen a lot of improv, and I've seen a lot of terrible improv, and it's been mocked to ad nauseum. But to see great improv or to see really, really good improv was a learning experience because I saw it was Matt Besser and Sean Conroy do improv, and they'd been doing improv as long as I've been doing stand-up.
Right.
And they were so relaxed. They did not go for any sort of obvious jokes or any kind of obvious things. But they also did not fear that they were about to be monsters. Like they literally just were like, no, there's something going to be funny here. It's going to be fine. I'm going to refer to my personal experience. I'm going to look into what my educational background. I'm going to look into pop culture. And it's a Rolodex that just goes thwip, 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 thwip.
Yes.
And they do it automatically because of the muscle reflex.
Yeah. That's such a good analogy too with the Rolodex and kind of the instant recall, right? And you see it with stand-up too, right? Where something happens in the moment or whatever, and the more you've done it, you just find the right solution, and you also learn to trust that, which you don't trust it when you're starting.
No, and you get scared, and you shouldn't. And then, then you just are like, any reaction at this point? I'm a year in, leave me alone.
Yes,
and
you also you fear silence, and you also fear. Like if something's not, you can sense something is not going in the direction you want it to, and then you compound the mistakes when you're younger instead of maybe sometimes just realizing that it's not as bad as you think.
Right. By the way, everyone should go to atcspecials.com and get Senior Class of Earth and watch all things Ted Alexandro, quite honestly. I've been... we don't hang out, but your stand-up is incredible.
Thank you. I think we did Seth Herzog's show.
I've done New York sets with you.
Yes.
That's the only ones I've done.
So rare, but it's a shame that we don't see each other more.
Right, because I would like to.
I would too.
So there you go. And so so you took all that stuff from the jazz, and then... Did you go back to see the originals? Like you mentioned Rent and stuff.
A lot of it I did. And that was what, the disappointment of not realizing that dream of being a jazz musician is just a small part of like the larger thing of it introduced me to jazz history, which I came to understand was American history. It's just inextricably linked with, like, when you learn about Louis Armstrong, or you learn about Miles Davis, or Ella Fitzgerald, any of these people, you're really learning American history and versions of American history that aren't really told.
No, because in a normal version of American history, they wouldn't be in the book.
That's right.
So the fact
that certainly wouldn't be the hero.
Right. Yeah. And so to hear their story is to see perspective of sort of like Howard Zinn's People's History.
That's right.
Just sort of, if you take a different perspective, So if you look at American history through Louis Armstrong's eyes, you're like, oh, what was going on?
Yeah.
When everyone else is just like, oh, it was the Depression, and you know, people were saving patent dimes because they were made out of silver.
Yeah.
And you're like, but Louis Armstrong couldn't find work because he was a black man, and the white people were poor. And
That's
so
right.
the black people were dying.
Yeah, and there was almost like this epiphany and a shameful one of like kind of realizing not just the humanity of these people, but the greatness, like, because they're not, you know, we're kind of conditioned to equate like the white legends with being like the American heroes. But I was almost ashamed of the fact that I didn't realize the legends of American music. You know, I'd heard Louis Armstrong's music and stuff, but there was an element of just realizing, wow, this guy affected everyone who followed, you know, and not just jazz musicians, but anyone who solos or even us as comedians, you know, like the way of approaching something.
How did he approach stuff? Like, just anecdotally, is there any?
He had an innate gift for essentially never playing anything the same way twice. You know, his language was such, his musical language was such that he could take a phrase, and if you heard him play the same song, he rarely repeated a phrase. He would just change it a little bit, a different inflection, a different way of phrasing the notes. And so that was what he brought to like the musical phrase. You all knew it, you know, even if it was like "You Are My Sunshine" or something that we all know. But then he would play it differently every single time, and it was so effortlessly that you didn't notice.
You were like, no, this is the song I know.
That's right.
It's just got a fun twist.
And there's a joy. Yeah, there's a joy that just exudes from him because he has such a mastery, you know. So that's the highest level of mastery. You don't notice
I think who's the famous clarinet player? Benny Goodman. Mm-hmm. So when I took clarinet in third grade, I wanted to play like Benny Goodman, and my teacher was like, "Good." And when you're as good as Benny Goodman, you can hold it like that. And but it's sort of that.
Yeah,
it's sort of like that where the skill level and the joy was so obvious when you listen to him. Yeah. Because sometimes I have trouble with jazz where I'm like,
sure,
well, you're not playing the notes.
Right.
And nobody asked me. So
yeah, no, and jazz does go into so many different levels. And I think there are levels of mastery that it almost kind of gets in the way of communicating to the average listener who doesn't have that skill.
Right. Or I don't know where you're coming from. Like I haven't made the journey with you. I think once you make the journey, I suppose in any art form, then you can appreciate the furthest reaches of it.
Right. And I'm so glad that I did find stand-up to express, like, because it was like I don't know if you had this, but it was like a yearning to be heard in some way, or a yearning to like express something. Yeah. And again, I thought it might be music.
I thought it might be acting.
Right. Yeah. Right. But then, so I'm really grateful that was resolved. That yearning was resolved in stand-up.
Right. And people who always say, well, I want to try and do stand-up, I always want to say, then just try it, because you will know almost immediately.
That's right.
If you are addicted.
Yeah.
And if you aren't, don't sweat it.
Yeah.
There'll be something else, man.
Yeah.
Just keep trying. Just throw all the things.
Yeah, and I'm of the mindset, like, I'm not this one that like, oh, everyone's a comedian now, or like it's like, yeah, great, everyone should try it. It's just talking, you know.
It's everyone should be able to talk, and everyone does want to be heard. Yeah. And to some extent, there's so many stories of not even some extent, but there's so many points of view that have not been heard.
Sure.
So you probably have one. Everyone has one.
Yeah.
So let me hear it.
Sure.
Feel free to write a joke around it.
Yeah, I'm not threatened by more people telling their stories.
No,
you know?
No, I can't be. I was talking to Louis Lee. You know Louis, right?
Yeah.
Owns a comedy club in Minneapolis,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
It's my home club.
Yeah.
And I think he made some comment about how I should do something that somebody else did, and I was like, why do I got to do something the way he does it? Because he's successful. And he goes, yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it. And he's like, there's plenty of work for you. Don't worry. And I was like, all right, then book more women. Anyway, so
Yeah, how about
and he was
that?
like, I gotta go. And I'm like, Louis, you're killing me.
That's a conversation ender usually, right? Yeah.
He's like, don't tell me how to run my club. And I was like, you're telling me how to run my
There you go.
bossy Magoo.
That's
anyway,
right.
so hoodle. So what are your favorites? What are your what musicals do you want to talk about at length? Anything you wanted to? Did you see Hamilton?
I did see Hamilton. Yeah, we saw that somewhat recently. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, well, this is kind of a weird departure too, but my older brother and I had a rap group in the mid to late 80s called Brotherly Love.
Yes.
At the kind of the inception of rap.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you at the late 80s?
Jeez.
It's KRS-One's right there. He's
yeah.
just talking. He's Scott LaRock. You ever get to meet him?
It's funny you bring up those names because my brother Rich and I performed at the Apollo for their amateur night, late 80s. And
you have balls the size of Gibraltar. How was that?
After that, everything was easy.
Yeah.
Everything was easy. Yeah, we two white boys from Queens performing at the Apollo. Got booed off.
Doing hip hop.
Yeah. I mean, there were no. I think the Beastie Boys were around at that point when we did it, but that was probably it.
There were probably some guys, and everybody was living in hope.
Yes.
I mean, there were a lot of young white guys who were totally living in.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You got booed off?
We got booed off in probably less than a minute. Like, I would say we made it about 40 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. Which we were proud of.
That's all right.
And not
it's like
bad.
it's bull riding, man.
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. So yeah, again, that was kind of another extension of the dream.
Yeah.
That fell by the wayside. But yeah, so what made me think of that was Hamilton. So when I saw Hamilton, I definitely had an appreciation of like, wow, this is high art that deserves to be on Broadway. And another, like you were saying with stand-up too, another voice that has merit and is just such a high artistic level.
And a weird perspective.
For sure.
I heard the album before I saw any of the clips.
Yeah.
And I lost my mind. I don't know if you know this. Middle-aged white lady, destined to love Hamilton.
Yes.
Anyway, so...
Well, I mean, the names you just dropped, how many middle-aged white ladies from Milwaukee know KRS-One and Scott LaRock?
They're almost... I know probably 7 hip-hop. I mean, I have one album from everybody is the deal, but it does cross every genre.
Oh, yeah.
So I saw Miles Davis one time in Provincetown,
Wow.
Massachusetts. He asked for if anyone he had floss. And there was a lady in the front row who did. And he said, here's the thing about a trumpet. He played trumpet, right?
Yes.
Hi. He said, the thing about trumpet player, you don't want to hear me play without me dealing with this. So there was a woman in the front lady who had some floss in her purse.
So
and,
mid show, he just needed some floss.
even before. He was like, he got out and he was just like, he tried, and then he was like, nope,
Not working.
not working. Gonna need some floss. Anybody got any floss? And
Well, there's even though it's non-musical, there's a great example of somebody who's comfortable improvising, right?
Yeah.
Because he realized like this is not going to work. Let me ask
Right.
the crowd for some floss.
right, and it was 300 people in a weird churchy town hall kind of a space.
Wow.
It was a weird in 1989.
What was your takeaway? Well, aside from the floss, which is obviously indelibly.
Yes,
What was your takeaway from the performance, the vibe?
It was weird because it was all seated white people that were gay and elderly,
Yeah.
mostly.
Right.
And because there's a lot of couples who live in Provincetown,
Right.
which is why, and they're fabulously wealthy, even in 1989.
Yes.
That's why they could afford to get Miles Davis essentially for their birthday party.
Right.
And he was like, "Fine, just
I'll do it.
I would like a bag of cash. I'm just gonna play some music, and then you people can live your lives."
Yeah.
And
so those weird dynamics.
it was a weird dynamic,
Yeah.
and I barely knew who he was because I was in marching band.
Yeah.
And I was a bit of a marching band snob.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Dork Forest. Where I was like, I still like parades. I love marching band.
Sure.
I like drum and bugle corps.
Yeah.
So
the
it
one
was
thing that his
fascinating.
performance was lacking was there was no
Structure.
marching. Yeah.
Yeah, there was you know what it was? It was a lot of improvised trumpet. But since I love trumpet,
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I didn't recognize any of the
Yeah,
music. And
that's right.
And I think that also is something I like. I like to
Right.
recognize the music.
But isn't it nice to feel uncomfortable sometimes and to have your mind blown of like,
Yes.
I don't know what's going on right now.
yeah. And I mean, when I look back on it, I'm like, what did I get to see? And
Right.
and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's one of those.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't, in real time, it's not all making sense.
Right. And which is why people got to practice knowing that whatever you're experiencing could be amazing. You don't know.
For sure.
You're watching, I don't know, your kids singing. And I mean, it's just, I went and saw my niece sing one time with her. It was their concert. And they were terrible, but they were 11.
Yes.
So they weren't going, I mean, it would have been very rare if they would have been amazing. But
Right.
they were all trying very hard and I was so happy that they were doing it
Yeah.
that I laughed until I cried.
Ha.
And so, because it was absurd
Yes.
how bad it was, but I loved how happy they were.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that's to me, even when you were talking about bad improv or bad stand-up, which we've both seen plenty of and literally brought into the world ourselves.
Right. I was there.
I was responsible, yeah.
I was responsible. So there's been some trouble.
Yeah, yes. But just even that has merit, like sometimes both for performer and sometimes not. Sometimes it's a total train wreck. But yeah, if you're alive, those things
You can find some joy in that.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so you got to see, Hamilton, the perspective of Hamilton is the fact that they were great American, because you were talking about Louis Armstrong,
Yep.
and the perspective of history is what Lin-Manuel Miranda did.
Well, yeah, just having an all black or people of color cast, right?
Right.
Turns it on its head.
Essentially revealed the humanity of
Right.
other people.
Yes, which again is a good way of putting it, which I kind of, again, once I started reading about all these jazz musicians, the humanity washed over me, and there was a shame, which, wasn't my own fault entirely because of the way that we're educated. Like you said, they're removed from so much of history.
Right, you're not encouraged to look at that perspective.
That's right.
So, and the purpose of art, arguably,
Yep,
is to freaking change your perspective.
for sure.
And Hamilton blew my mind for that because, I've never considered myself a racist.
Yeah.
And then to have your own racism, because it's like the definition of racism when I was a kid was, well, you hate black people.
Right.
You hate people because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
Well, just because I don't doesn't mean that I'm not doing racist things.
Yeah, if
There's
you're
a whole other
American, you're
layer.
on the spectrum. Yeah, you're on.
And so as the layers got peeled away,
Yeah.
there is shame, but only because of the brightness of the light.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I can learn this.
That's right.
And people have always just wanted to be people.
Yes.
Women have wanted to be people since the beginning.
Yes.
People of color. It turns out they're just people.
Yes.
And we all, to learn it
Yeah. Yeah.
is almost dizzying sometimes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And to sit in it and to sit in that reality, and then just maybe be quiet,
Yeah.
Yeah. To not immediately spew your thoughts on the whole thing. I have a dissertation. I just had a realization and I'd like everyone's attention.
Exactly. Which one of my favorite things about musicals is that there's always a B plot. There's always South Pacific.
Yes.
The racism song. You have to be
Oh,
carefully taught.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
It's Guys and Dolls.
Yep.
It's Marlon Brando.
Brett Kavanaugh could probably have sung "There's Nothing Like a Dame" at his questioning, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I wish he would have. It would have been more fun if all of those white guys would have just broken into. Have you ever seen that? What's the song? Oh, I'm going to massacre it, of course. But it's "Nobody Speaks, Nobody Gets Choked." Remember that?
A rap song.
It's a rap song that's
Yeah,
out
yeah.
now, and the video is essentially him at the UN. And it's like, nobody speaks, nobody gets choked. It's a great video.
Somebody edited that song into.
Into Brett Kavanaugh?
That's what I'm asking.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. This video.
The actual music video.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, I did see that.
That old one.
Yes.
So, and old being 8 months ago.
Right.
So,
Right.
but like they all have like Footloose.
Yes.
Dirty Dancing, which aren't traditional musicals. They're just have music in them.
Right.
And then, but like Gigi, the weird message of Gigi.
Which I never saw Gigi.
Well, it's about a young girl who's being trained to be a prostitute.
Okay.
And
And it's a musical?
And it's a musical. And it's about an older man
Yeah.
who has sort of grown up with her. He's probably 6 or 10 years older. And he was always essentially an uncle-like figure or an older brother-like figure. Mm-hmm. And then they fall in love and he realizes, oh, she's going to become a prostitute. And I got to marry that. And that's the whole message is just like to save her.
So she'll be my possession instead of
everyone's.
Right.
And it's such a weird. I remember loving it as a child.
Yeah.
Loved it. Without the power of the sun, I was like, this is so romantic.
Yes.
And
she's saved.
She's saved, which. I guess if we got to do it artisanally, one at a time, Jesus God. And so, but but they're all like, and Greece is filthy.
Yeah. So many of the things, I was just having that conversation the other day with a bunch of people about how so much of the things we loved, now you have to rethink, and Greece is certainly another one. I mean, people have been talking about Greece for a while because it is so absurd how she turns into like this slutty hot pants wearing.
Yeah, the hot pants.
Right.
She throws away. I mean, he was gonna throw his away, and she's like, "No, I'll throw it away." And he's like, "No, you're right. You should totally throw your life away. I'll keep mine."
Yes. Thanks for
When
offering.
on the other way. He should have thrown his greaser smoking life away and turned into a nice upstanding guy.
Absolutely.
Right. Why does she have to become the hot pants lady?
Right. She had the moral center.
She had she was sort of, well, not even, she was the nicer of the two of them.
For sure. And yeah, that was always the weird thing in the movie that I remember. Like, it happened so abruptly of like, whoa, this is how it's ending?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and they're not having the baby, Kaneki.
Rizzo, yeah.
Yeah, and we're all going to dress like sluts and dance.
And now we're going to fly off into the sky in a car.
Yeah.
So,
and also with gay John Travolta, there were the layers of the weirdness of it too, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And there's musicals, and then there's like the Rock Hudson Doris Day musicals.
Yes.
Where she just sings. Because she can sing.
Yeah.
And then he alludes to being gay.
Yes.
And then she sings. And then
right.
He tricks her. Every single Doris Day Rock Hudson movie is just a pack of lies.
Oh, yeah.
I was showing him to Andy, my husband, and he was like, he's horrible. He's a terrible person. And I was like, I know. It's unfortunate in this enlightened age. But I still don't want to replace... I don't want to replace the walkie-talkies with guns or the guns with walkie-talkies in E.T.
Right.
I don't want to X out the smoking in Midnight Run.
Yep.
I don't even want to bleep out the swearing in Midnight Run.
Right.
There's blackface in Holiday Inn that I'm like, no, be uncomfortable.
That's right.
Watch it.
Yeah.
And that's the only scene that woman got. So why don't we give her that scene?
Yeah.
Because she had like 4 lines.
Sure. It's a historical documentation. It exists. And at the time, all the things you mentioned like won awards, right? So so that's even further cause to kind of examine, well, this is where we were.
Right. And there's absolutely nothing. I mean, all of our guilt, I'm working on a new bit about how all of our guilt is manageable. If we manage it, calm down.
Yes.
We've all made errors.
Yeah.
As long as you didn't, obviously you want to fix some things. But on the whole, you might have been a child. We genuinely lived in a different time because our lives are changing so fast right now.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
But.
And I think, again, like with musicals, for me, it was always this diversion. So you don't even realize some of, like when you're singing and dancing, you don't realize some of the absurdity of like the messages of Greece or West Side Story or whatever. But yeah, like with the passage of time and some more information.
The new musicals are all about new things. Mm-hmm. Right, there's that Evan Hansen one.
That's right, yeah. Is that the one about depression or suicide?
I think it's about suicide.
Suicide,
yeah. And then there's one about being a waitress. Come on. There's a lot of work.
Some breakthroughs here.
People work for a living, you guys.
That's right.
I think there's one about working at Amazon. I don't even know. But like I have a lot of the old ones. There's scenes that I fast forward through. Like
Sure.
And like I just watched Soap Dish. And
Which
Soap
they
Dish-
made a movie about. Did they do a movie about?
Actually, Soap Dish wasn't a musical. I think I was thinking of Victor Victoria. They came out in the 80s.
You know the one that just popped into my head?
What?
I don't mean to cut you off.
Please. Someone has to.
Sugar, which...
I never saw that.
Sugar, it was a musical I did my senior year of high school. It was based on the movie Some Like It Hot. Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis. So I played Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
I played the Tony Curtis role. The basic storyline was they were musicians. Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis played in a band. They were kind of traveling freelance musicians. They witnessed a murder, so the mob was after them because they knew they had seen it. So they had to go on the lam as dressing up as women, and they played in an all-women band, which also included Marilyn Monroe as the lead singer.
Right, who loved saxophone players.
That's right.
And then it all worked out for Tony Curtis.
It all worked out.
And then Bosom Buddies came from that.
That's right. That's right.
And then my idea was a Bosom Buddies, but it was called Meester Seaster, and it was going to be two Latino women moved to Los Angeles, and they have to dress up like guys so they can live at the Y. And it was a joke that I wrote back in 97.
That's great.
And I got a meeting with NBC because of it.
Wow.
And then I explained to them that it was a joke, and the meeting was over immediately. And I was like, no, but I will write that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a little vaguely racist. And they're like, it wouldn't be racist for the thousands of Mexican actors that you would be employing. And I was like, fair enough.
That is so great.
Yeah, Meester Seaster. It could have happened. It could have happened.
Wow.
Still could.
Maybe
Knock yourselves out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Maybe they wouldn't call it Meester Seaster. But Bosom Buddies was terrible.
That's right.
So Meester Seaster sounds just as bad.
At least Mr. Sister is more honest. You know?
It has.
We're not hiding anything.
Right. It's not a big boob job that has been somehow inadvertently created. So what have you seen any lately besides Hamilton? Did you see Rent? I never did see Rent.
I saw Rent.
I heard it was sad.
It was sad, yeah. Yeah, I saw that like at the peak of its kind of phenomenon. You know, it seems like every, 10 years, there's something that redefines the form.
Yeah.
And so I did see Rent. I actually remember coming away from that thinking, it had that one indelible song, Seasons of Love, I think was the one like hit that came out of that, that everybody knows. But for me, I came away a little bit underwhelmed by Rent because the phenomenon of
you'd been blown up too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was afraid of Hamilton.
Same,
freaking me out.
That's right.
I was like, I can't, and I'd listened to the album too many times. And
so you already were like knew.
I'd memorized
right.
the songs, and then I saw it here in Los Angeles first.
Yeah.
With the LA touring group.
Now was
and then,
Lynn?
No, I didn't see any original cast at all.
Yeah, same.
And then I saw it in New York. Probably 3 months later. And the New York cast was better, and I was surprised. But I was talking to a theater person who said, it doesn't matter that they're coming to Los Angeles. The touring group still isn't as good as the New York group because everyone wants to do it in New York on Broadway.
Right.
And I was like, well, you would think actors would want to perform in front of the muckety mucks in television and movies. And they're like, they can fly to New York. And
that's true.
I was like, oh, okay. But I would, it was... The first one I saw, we had sort of middle floor seats, and it was good. But the second time I saw it, we were 6th row in New York.
Wow.
And so I got to actually see people's faces. I mean, that's the thing about live theater that I think makes me want to go see smaller productions because I like to be right in it.
Oh yeah,
I like to be sort of close to the stage.
And with a musical too, it's like sensory overload. You're taking in so much.
Yeah,
yeah, it is nice to be close.
Yeah.
You know what popped into my head actually was the Book of Mormon was another one that I saw that I'm kind of curious to revisit because again that was a
how
phenomenon.
It holds up.
Yeah.
I just saw it.
Did you? Yeah, because I think like with the missionary stuff and it was a lot of, if I recall, like that kind of like...
It was a little South Parky. Mm-hmm. It had the South Park kind of sort of the anti-gay stuff and the a lot of weird dick jokes that it doesn't hold up as good.
I would imagine.
It almost holds up.
Okay.
So good for them.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And at the time, I remember I had some Mormon friends who were like, it's very scathing, but it's also very funny. And so they didn't dislike it.
Okay.
But most of the Mormons I know are incredibly polite. So who knows what they were really thinking.
That's right. We may never know.
Well, we certainly won't be here.
No,
they'll be here.
They will.
And them and their 100 pounds of grain. Good for you. And we had a Mormon neighbor who I was like, hey, if the hard times come, can we have some of your grain? She's like, that's what it's for. I was like, well, you are the nicest lady named Nelana I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You're in the right place, the right neighborhood.
So we're almost at an hour.
Yeah.
I've barely let you talk about your thing. Welcome to the Dork Forest. You got to come back because serious, I could talk to you for... it's always a sign when I do more of the talking that I'm like, no, I want this person to like me. Anyway, stop talking.
It's a mission accomplished.
Oh, well, oh, wait a minute. I do feel better. So what have you seen? What are do you have any favorites from the old ones or the new ones or any of it?
You know, from the old ones, I would say West Side Story does have a special place in my heart just because it was that first one that wasn't so overly cheery and also felt modern and felt cool and was interracial and was New York too, which was where I'm from. So
right.
yeah, and had jazz because like Leonard Bernstein was kind of playing with genres and kind of infusing it with the language of
it had a great
jazz
message.
Yeah.
It was Romeo and Juliet, but it was also American in a very, very American racial way. So
absolutely. Yeah. So I think that one resonated with me pretty quickly and still does. The older ones, I guess.
What about Hair?
Never did Hair. I saw it once. I think my sister was in a production in college.
Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ Superstar.
Liked it. Loved I think Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote that one, right? So, yeah, that one I liked. That they were playing with the form that it was like a rock opera,
right?
Kind of the hippie thing. Yeah, I like things that kind of took it out of the button down, like almost old timey.
Oh, right, Music Man.
Yeah. That kind of updated it. So yeah, I liked that, but I didn't love the music. For me, like if I'm going to a musical, I want to leave there with at least 2, maybe 3 songs. Where I'm like, that was a great song.
Like buying an album.
Yeah,
like I'd like 2 or 3 songs, and in a full production, there should be 2 albums, right? Or
that's right. And how am I forgetting? Les Misérables that's the one that I've probably seen the most.
I understand that one's sad too. I haven't seen that one,
but it's just
it's ridiculous. I haven't.
You have to.
I know. I really want to
because the French Revolution and the people rising up and a man wrongly accused.
Yeah.
Just I mean that one. You talk about like songs that you leave, with multiple songs that you remember forever. Les Misérables is probably the musical that I've seen the most in the theater too. Like on Broadway or various. I think I saw.
You'll go various productions. I
went to London. I was doing a gig in London, and I think on the Sunday that I had off or whatever, I went to see Les Misérables there.
Oh, nice.
That one to me is just such a universal message of humanity and hope.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately I think it's hope, but it's sad too,
Right. Yeah. And I tend to cry at movies and musicals and books.
Same here.
Real life, not as much. You just got to punch me in the nose.
Yeah.
But that's not true. but for the most part, So I'll see Les Mis, and that is fascinating. Ted Alexandro, thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Jackie.
This has been a delight. Everyone at Ted Alexandro. Try to go see that clip of him at the Comedy Cellar. Was a week and a half?
It came out a week and a half ago, but it's from September. Yeah, about a month ago.
All right.
Yeah.
And go to atcspecials.com and get Senior Class of Earth because that's his new special, and it's a delight. Thanks so much for being.
Thank you.
Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?